Hello, and welcome to Finding Your North Star, the HGKC podcast series where we talk to prominent business people about their experiences and challenges of innovation. I recently became a director of Somerset Chamber of Commerce, and the more I've found out about what's going on here, the more excited I've become. So in this new series of podcasts, we're focusing on place, specifically Somerset. Situated to the south of Bristol and extending from the mouth of the Severn to Devon in the south, and across the M5 to Wiltshire and Dorset in the east, Somerset is a county of contrasts. It's rural, but with one of the biggest concentrations of precision engineering in Europe. It's a county with a declining birth rate that many people retire to, but with opportunities for skilled work such as those offered at Hinkley Point C and by Agratas on the former Royal Ordnance Factory site that are turning Bridgewater into a boomtown. There's no university, but it has several highly innovative colleges such as Bridgewater and Taunton and Yeovil that are contributing to skills development for young and old alike. Somerset presents a unique combination of challenges and opportunities. I'm Peter Quintana, and I'm delighted that for our first podcast in this series, we will be exploring Somerset with Emma Warren, Chair of Somerset Chamber of Commerce, Co-Chair of the Economic Growth Board for Somerset and founder and MD of Elite Staffing Solutions. So welcome, Emma.
Hi, Peter. Thank you.
Before we start, can you just introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Emma Warren and I'm born and raised in Somerset, very proud, passionate Somerset supporter. And as you rightly said, I'm the current chairperson of the Somerset Chamber of Commerce, and I've been on the board for almost 6 years. And in my day job, I am the managing director of a recruitment company, Elite Staffing Solutions, and I also support the Economic Growth Board for Somerset and now the Skills Health Partnership for Somerset. So a number of hats that I put on, Peter.
I'm not sure how you managed to wear them all, Emma. With your Chambers and Economic Growth Board hats on, you're involved in the very core of what's happening in Somerset at the moment. That must be really exciting. How did you find yourself in those roles? And can you give a sense of how it feels to be contributing to shaping the future of our county?
Yeah, of course. So 6 years ago, I was a member of the Chamber, like many other businesses, and I'd been a sponsor actually of the Somerset Business Awards since I founded the business in 2015. So I did have some good relationships with the team, and an opportunity for director members came up. So a number of us had to apply, and it was a really busy year actually for becoming a member. There were 4 places and I think there was something like 7 applications. So we had a
Wow.
really embarrassing, grueling annual general meeting where we all had to stand up and say our bit as to why we should be appointed, and then they did a vote there and then, and thankfully I was voted on. So that's how I became involved, and then through that role essentially there have been a couple of periods of time where I've stepped in to oversee the general running of the chamber, and it was during that time that I was approached by the council as a representative of the chamber to join the Economic Growth Board. So, it's kind of right time, right place, and a bit of proactivity. In terms of how do I feel, I think it's a mixture of excitement and huge responsibility. I really like, if I'm going to be involved with something, I want to be doing it properly. I want to be having a say and really kind of owning that responsibility. So I don't take it lightly. It's a complex county. And like you say, with a huge amount of opportunity, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, but with also pockets of deprivation and quite a lot of challenges. So there's definitely lots to do here.
Absolutely. I was at the Great Southwest Networking Breakfast when Carl was speaking, talking about the challenges he was facing in actually getting Westminster to recognise the value of the Southwest versus the Midlands, for example, or the powerhouse. It is a challenge, and it does bemuse me a little bit with everything that's going on down here that there is still so little attention paid, and I can't understand why that is, really.
No, it is really interesting. And I think when you're in your bubble of running a SME and you're not involved perhaps with anything to do with local government, you don't necessarily realise or appreciate what is actually going on, and the lack of acknowledgement for this region, but also particularly this county. And we are overlooked significantly when it comes to funding. People might quickly maybe run down the council or certainly have their comments and their criticisms, but actually they're doing a good job in very sort of difficult circumstances, really. And I know Carl passionately is championing more for our region, more Westminster support, and I absolutely agree with him.
Yeah, I do too. So the economic growth strategy sets out an ambition for a more dynamic, greener and inclusive economy. And I understand it's been adopted by the council recently. From your perspective, what are the biggest opportunities for Somerset to achieve what's set out on that strategy over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think one of the key areas, as you sort of touched upon for us all, is to harness the assets that we have in our region when it does come to green energy. It's something that not only we want to do, but we absolutely have to do. And I think as a region, we are well placed to champion all things renewable energy, and that will put us not just on a national stage, an international one, where we become absolute experts in harnessing in renewables and the opportunities that come with that for the people that live here, businesses here, and actually bringing more people to the region, which will only in turn help it grow and thrive. So I think that's absolutely, as you said, one of the key areas. I think as well, it's important to say that investing in the people and the young people of our region is an opportunity. And yes, it has its challenges, but equally, if done, the opportunities that presents for us are huge.
Yeah. There are always two sides to the story, I think, though, aren't there, Emma? And I know you're aware of some of the challenges presented, and I would imagine some of the businesses that you work with, faced with
Mm-hmm.
rising employment costs caused by the higher pay packs on offer at Hinckley, and probably will be on offer at Agratas as well once they get
Mm.
going there. And of course, exacerbated by increases in NI, potential tax rises coming again in the autumn statement. What long-term risks do you see for the county?
I think the long-term risk really probably is around skills.
Mm,
And I know it's been said many times before, but we're contradictory actually, because as much as in Somerset particularly, 75% of our businesses here are SMEs, and a huge number of that are micro business. So we're very entrepreneurial, but at the same time, there's pockets, like I said, where we have no aspirations and we struggle with social mobility. And so that in itself means is harnessing young people to achieve what they really can, and getting over some of those issues of how those young people access opportunities. But so that to me is a long-term risk, especially coupled with, like you say, a declining birth rate, an aging population, brain drain of some of the young people moving out of area and not potentially coming back again. That is one of the key fundamental risks that will prevent us from realizing all of the opportunities we have in our hands.
yeah. We don't have a university in Somerset, although I know Bridgewater and Taunton have just
Mm,
renamed themselves the University Somerset College Group. And I know they have links to UWE, as does Western College have links to UWE, but they're not
yeah,
specifically universities. Do you think that businesses in Somerset could do more to get into colleges and the neighbouring universities, so Exeter, Bath, Bristol, on what used to be known as the Milk Round, just to kind of talk about what the opportunities are in the
yeah,
county?
yeah, definitely. I don't think in itself the fact that we don't have a university per se is our biggest challenge or problem, because like you said, we have some highly effective colleges that are
Yeah.
doing fantastic things for young people. And you know what, when you look at it geographically, Exeter and Bristol, they're not very far away. What is actually then perhaps more of a risk is that those individuals that are studying elsewhere don't realise what real opportunities exist within Somerset to come back
Yeah.
to stay here for. There are people that can go to uni and still remain in Somerset and commute to Exeter or Bristol, but there is this perhaps misconception that Somerset is a sleepy rural community that doesn't have any of the bells and whistles that some of the cities offer. And it's difficult because I think partially I am in support of people going off, experiencing different ways of living. You know, I lived down in West Sussex and Hampshire for 6 years, and it really benefited me going away and experiencing something different. But I came back to Somerset ultimately, and that's where I have my family and set up my business. So I think it's absolutely really promoting externally why this is a great place to come back to and bring your talent and grow and thrive in whatever area you want to.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I completely agree with that. For young people who want fast city life, Somerset doesn't really offer that. Exeter doesn't offer that. Bristol maybe offers a bit of that. But if you want fast city life, you want to go to Manchester or London, and we can't
Yeah,
compete with what's on offer there. But we do have a fantastic quality of life here.
goodness me, yeah,
And
yeah,
I think what you did, which is go away, come back when you're ready, kind of maybe to put down deeper roots, a
yeah.
family and so on and so forth. This is an extraordinary place to come.
It's a bit like marketing, isn't it? It's knowing your audience. So let's be
Mm.
honest, was never going to be someone that wanted to live in London. That's just not for me. So with the best will in the world, that was not something I saw myself doing. And equally, someone who is a real city slicker isn't probably going to ever want to come and live in Somerset. So that's not who we need to necessarily attract. It's
No.
those that see the value, like you said, the rural living, the coast, a different sort of well-being element. Actually, if we can attract more of those people, that would be who we should be aiming at, rather than trying to get people out of like inner cities to come and live in Somerset. Because yeah, like you say, that's not necessarily going to meet their values, but perhaps not enough is done in, and I don't know how to solve that problem in half an hour podcast about how do we attract more of the people that we could, because I would argue those people that live in West Sussex and places like that, they are the sort of demographic that could well sit really nicely down here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's think about the demographic in Somerset.
Mm.
What more do you think needs to be done to ensure that Somerset residents, and particularly those in rural and coastal communities, can access the opportunities being created by projects like Gravity and Hinkley Point C?
Yeah, I think it's probably an obvious one, but transportation and
Mm.
accessibility is absolutely key. Where you think of West Somerset, for example, and the connectivity from that part of Somerset over towards Bridgewater or Taunton, you know, it's really difficult to get from one place to another, particularly if you aren't in a situation where you have your own transport. So I think we need to be creative about how we find solutions to that and give people the access to those opportunities. And one of the things actually that came up in a conversation I had recently was around cohesion. Those businesses that are requiring more people, could they come together to provide innovative, creative solutions about how you get people from A to B in those cut-off communities? Yes, it should maybe be a council problem, but we all know the reality of that. But there's nothing to stop some of these entrepreneurial, ambitious, creative people joining together and coming up with some ideas as to how we give people greater access.
It was done for Hinkley, wasn't it? There's a bus company that was
Oh yeah,
formed around Hinkley to ferry,
SPS.
yeah, to ferry, yeah.
Exactly.
And
You know,
my
that
my
what a great way to overcome that challenge of having lots and lots of people commuting through a village is to have one provider. It was genius. And I would believe that there were people that could come up with equally great ideas as to how you can transport somebody from A to B. But I think the other main thing that needs to be done is to, and I know that there is already work starting, but is to create a world for a lot of young people around where their aspirations are there, that they can achieve that they can get roles in those places, that there will be something for them after school so that they do get their heads down and commit to education, and perhaps that their families believe that it can be done for them.
yeah.
So it's the piece around aspiration as well as transportation.
Yeah, I agree. I live in Frome. There's planning application for a very big development on the edge of Frome that includes a
Mhm.
commercial space and employment space. And as Frome Chamber, I was at the public inquiry for this recently, talking to them
Mm.
about the need for us to create almost like a mini gravity in Frome where we
Yeah.
attract an anchor tenant into the town, But one of the other people speaking was talking about how difficult it is for people in Frome to access college training. They've got
Mm,
to go to Glastonbury for Strode or Trowbridge or Chippenham or Laycock. There are no
mm,
colleges here. There are primary schools and middle
yeah.
schools, but there are no colleges here. And yet there's provision in this planning application for a primary school.
Mm,
Why would you put a primary school there when you could put a college? And it
mm,
just seems to me that if we want to keep the talented young people in Frome, we've got to
mm,
give them something to aim at, something that they think is worthwhile making their place here. And of course,
yeah.
that also means giving them some affordable housing that they can buy into as well. And we have a desperate shortage of affordable housing across the
Yeah.
county, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the other challenges on the list, Peter,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, indeed it is. Okay, so that was great, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about Elite, why you chose to found a recruitment business, what the recruitment market's like in Somerset, what you're hearing from your clients about their opportunities and challenges?
Yeah. Okay, sort of themes to my career, one being recruitment, one being insurance. And I sort of, done both. When I was working, funny enough, in insurance and I had my first child, I came out of that experience. I think some women may relate to this. I just felt like superwoman. I thought, oh my God, I've just had a human and I've actually kept it alive. I'm just, yeah, I could do anything. And I think there was this sort of burning ambition. I am the daughter of former business owners. So I was fortunate enough to grow up in an environment where people had their own business, to think that that was a viable possibility. So again, that goes back to the whole ambition thing and a real driving force to have something of my own that I could grow exactly how I wanted. And insurance wasn't a possibility for that. So, but I did think I'm really good at that and I can tie that in with my insurance knowledge by offering insurance brokers recruitment support. So I went along those lines. And initially, though, when you do set up a business, you're not too worried about where those clients come from. So
Uh,
I had clients in all sorts, and we still do estate agency, accountancy, insurance, solicitors, all sorts. And I just couldn't believe I set out in my first month and had 26 new business visits, and they were all
wow.
hiring. And I was like, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting this. But it was phenomenal. And I've just actually released a video on my own LinkedIn around the changes in the markets. And when I started, we would be inundated with applications. Now it's a very different story, and clients share that they can struggle to find the candidates that they want. So we have to work really hard proactively at building lists of people that are available. They're passive, so they're not all looking for a job. So it's become a real marketing task actually
Yeah.
working for our clients. And that's been the biggest notable shift. But what we do enjoy is we really love working in partnership with companies, sort of showcasing what makes them unique and why a person would want to work with them, and then really using that to find the best talent for people. And on the flip side, when you get somebody and you've helped them into a role, you've changed their lives. Sometimes it can be people who haven't had a job or people who've had difficult circumstances and you've given them more flexibility. There's a lot of fulfillment there. But also, I think growing a team and giving my team opportunities to have careers. Yeah, but it's not an easy environment. And we are probably one of the only industries where your product can say no, which has
True. Yeah.
its own spin
I
occasionally.
bet it does. So you're talking about presenting your businesses in the best possible light. So do you help
Mm.
them develop an employer brand? Is that
Yeah,
something that you get involved with? Yeah, because that's really
absolutely.
can be really powerful, isn't it? If you can present a company as one that's got an employment force that's highly engaged in the business.
Yeah.
We were talking about Singer Instruments before we
Hmm.
started this. The kind of engagement level and shared purpose that
Mm.
that workforce has
Yeah.
towards what that business is trying to achieve is extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And that's a great case study for any business who turns around and says, we're struggling because of where we are. Well, try finding, physicians and rocket scientists in West
Bi
Somerset,
biologists, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Harry and his team have done something there which is really inspiring, and it is actually something that anyone can learn from around culture and how they reward their people, and how that can then help to overcome these barriers for hiring. And I am very much a solutions orientated person, hence Elite Staffing Solutions. There are always ways forward, no matter what your business situation is, by coming at it, like I said earlier about the challenges, coming at something creatively. Don't always just do what you've always done, because you will not get the different result that we're looking for. And I think that's where we work really closely with clients to try and understand what is the solution here, how do we move you forward.
Yeah, we often say to our clients, if you do today what you did yesterday, you can't expect a different result tomorrow. We didn't invent that. I think that might have been Einstein, but who knows? But it's absolutely true. And it's interesting to see the looks on people's faces when you say that.
Yeah.
If you want to do something different, you have to do something different. That's the thing.
Absolutely. And you know what I've been reading? Everyone in my world sort of laughs at my obsession with development books and what have you, but currently on Good to Great. And
Oh,
actually,
yes.
that's talking a lot about how actually the right people is pivotal to getting your business from good to great. And, that's exactly what we're all about, is finding the right people for people.
Yeah, we're big fans of Jim Collins in HGKC. He's great.
Yeah, it's a good read.
You said you came back to Somerset to have your family and then set up a business here.
Mm-hmm.
What reasons would you give if you were talking to somebody thinking about investing in Somerset or relocating their business here or setting up in a new business here? What would you say to them?
I would say I think you would be hard pushed to find better tools and resources. And I know we've spoken of the challenges, but at the same time, you look at where we're connected now, just over 2 hours to get to London. You've got good links from the motorways. So there's that accessibility. I think affordability, practically from a business point of view, what we pay for property, rent, all of those costs is far lower than inner cities. And actually, my former employer, WPA, that was one of the reasons they moved down here in the 80s, was they could get a much, much better premises here in Taunton than they could in Bristol. But on the other side of so you've got those sort of practical things. As a region, as I said, we're incredibly entrepreneurial. We have a huge amounts of SMEs here. So there's lots and lots of support around you, a great chamber to be a part of, lots of people to engage with, and also just the well-being aspect and the quality of life. 1 minute you can be in the Quantocks, next minute you can be on the coast. From that point of view, which I think is very important for all of us in this crazy world we're living in, when you are finished work and you're working really hard, to be able to go and enjoy that downtime in our surroundings, I just don't think you can get anything better than that.
No, it's pretty extraordinary.
Mm.
So final question then, Emma. What message would you like to send to young people leaving school and thinking about the job market?
Gosh, I think don't fear sort of the unknown, and don't overthink what you want to be doing in 10 years' time. I work a lot with young people, and one of the biggest challenges for them is, I don't know what I want to be. And it often can act as a barrier to do anything at all. It can paralyze people to make decisions about their next steps. And I would say, don't worry about what you want to be. Just do something that lights you up right here, right now. If that's studying and that's going to university, do it. If it's getting a job, do it, because you can always change your path once you're on it. You're not stuck on it. I didn't go to uni, and I remember agonizing over it. I was meant to, and then I didn't. And you know what? I just wish I hadn't sweat it so much and just got going. And that would be my best advice, is just do something that you feel passionate about, and the rest will happen. And just engage with really good people.
It's a really good answer. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
it seems to be a good place in which to end this conversation, Emma. I think we could probably talk the rest of the afternoon, couldn't we? But
Yeah,
remains for me to thank you for joining me. It's been a real pleasure to
pleasure.
talk to you.
Thank you, Peter.
So, if you're looking for a recruitment solution, then join the Elite and visit www.elitestaffingsolutions.co.uk. If you'd like to find out more about HGKC and how we work with our clients on leadership, growth through innovation, and preparation for exit, please visit our website, www.hgkc.co.uk. And if you're not a member of the Somerset Chamber of Commerce, well, you should be. Please visit the Chamber website to find out how the Chamber is supporting businesses across this county. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.